My name is Diane Ivec, and I go to Mosaic Community Church. I grew up in a small family. I was adopted when I was an infant. I was 3 months old. My mom and dad were a little bit older than a lot of my friends as parents, and they were also a lot more strict. My dad was, he ruled with an iron fist. He was a bit heavy-handed. It was oftentimes difficult to grow up in that kind of environment. Whenever they would allow me to do something outside of the house, I took that opportunity. They didn't like me to be in sports. They didn't want me to do any of that, but they did want me to be a Girl Scout. So I was a Girl Scout for a very long time, longer than I wanted to because they wouldn't let me quit. But the Girl Scouts met in a church, and then I started to ask if I could go to church on Sundays. And they said yes, so I would walk to church on Sundays, and I enjoyed being at church because everyone talked to me. And they gave me little jobs. I worked in the fellowship hall, and my job was to either fill juice cups or set out cookies. So I felt like I was part of something. And that made me feel good. I spent a lot of time there. Growing up adopted, I felt there was always something inside of me that longed for knowing who my parents were, my real parents. And there was always something that seemed missing for me. I didn't feel loved in my own home. I knew my parents loved me. My parents chose me. They adopted me. But I didn't have that great sense of love. And so I was always going out, and I was going to parties and bars, and I did a lot of socializing. I worked in the city, and so I was always looking for something else. I had this big hole inside my heart, and I was always looking. So the world told me I needed to be happy at all costs, and it ended up costing me my marriage. I felt that if I was going to be a single parent, I was going to do it on my terms. I found myself in exactly that space. I was divorced and single and devastated. I think going through a divorce was the worst thing that's ever happened to me. It's not what I wanted to happen, but it happened. And it was during that time that I was divorced that I was still seeking this happiness. You know, I was working, I was involved in all sorts of activities, all these places I went to try to fill myself, to try to fill the void. You know, I got a dog, and I would just cry to my dog. And lots of tears were shed on my dog because I was so lonely. Eventually, a friend invited me to church, and it took me well over a year to get there, but I finally went. And after the third voicemail on my phone, I decided I think I should go to this event. So I went to the event, and it was at the UIC Pavilion, and the preacher was way up front, and I'm not even sure what he was talking about. But near the end, he had an altar call. I stood up, and when I stood up, I felt like there was no one in this room but me and the preacher and the prayer, because I clearly heard the Holy Spirit calling to me, and it felt like that I was the only one in the room and that God was specifically talking to me. I gave my life to Christ that day, and I just dove in deeper. In my prayer journal, I started to write, obviously, things that I was praying about, people that I was praying for, the longings that I felt, that I yearned for, the emptiness, the sense of wanting to be loved, of belonging, of being a part of something greater than me, having a purpose for my life. God gave me the desires of my heart. was the year 2000, I finally connected with my biological mother. And that was a gift from the Lord. It was something that I always desired. And in 2019, I took a DNA test. And in October of 2019, I got to meet my biological father. I learned that I have 3 half-brothers. I see how God has just given me these gifts of these longings that I've had in my heart. And he just does that because he's a God of more. He didn't have to do any of that, but he did. What God has done for me is he has taken this person who has always longed to be a part of something, and he's given me a new church family to be a part of. Here at Mosaic, this is a place where I feel at home. I feel part of the family here. They're image bearers of God. This place is an image of Christ. It's the body together, working together. And so I find great joy in serving here. I see people here at Mosaic finding purpose. I see marriages being restored. I see people breaking free of habitual sin, of sinful patterns. I see people breaking free from patterns of fear and anxiety. I see God at work here at Mosaic Community Church. It's been a blessing. It's been quite a journey, and I'm forever grateful for what God does in my life.